Okay, then. Well, look, thank you so much for that. And as you're absolutely correct, it was a tough choice for the judges, but somebody had to do it. And in fact, let's meet one of those judges who's responsible for selecting today's winners. This is Rosalia Gitau. Now, Rosalia is the CEO of MyBixie, and you're calling in live from Bangkok, looking very resplendent, if I might add.
Thank you so much, Juliette. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you. But look, it was a difficult task trying to whittle down the winners. But what does it mean to you personally to have been a judge on the very first MAIA, given all the work that has gone into this? The vision is finally being fulfilled.
I mean, I'm extremely flattered because I am also a fintech founder. And my company MyBixie, we are trying to bring women into the discussion around finances. So of course, I mean, not only am I flattered, but I feel very passionately about this subject, so much so that I've given my life and my livelihood over to it. So I'm just really excited at this opportunity. I have to admit, I was really glad to know I was not alone. I think so much of the founder's journey is you think, oh, I have this idea, and am I right about this idea? It turns out I am in extremely good company. And it was through this judgment process and through the assessment process that I realized there are so many people around the world tackling this enormous issue. So I'm really not alone in trying to rectify this situation. I am amongst many fantastic allies from all over the world.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned women there, because whenever we talk about money, too often women are a bit excluded.
Yeah. I think how I actually ended up founding my company was obviously in my own journey. I had these big careers, and I kind of woke up one day in my mid-30s and realized, oh my gosh, I have no idea about money. And as it turns out, I wasn't alone. And when I started to look around me, and I started to look at the people that I worked with. I was with the United Nations for many years. I realized we were completely absent. We're 51% of the global population, yet fewer than 1% of us invest. We own, 1/3 of global assets. I mean, we're pretty financially excluded overall. And, the problem with that is it's okay. It's okay not to have a ton of money. But when you live in a capitalist system where money is power, I mean, it really results in women being extremely vulnerable. And so, as I mentioned, when I was working with the United Nations, that was the first thing I noticed. I went from crisis to crisis, and always the victims of crisis are always women and our children. And a lot of the reason why we find ourselves in crisis is because we have no safety net. We have no financial security. And I really wanted to find a way to tackle that.
And it's an interesting point as well, because in some cultures, men make the financial decisions and women generally have to interpret this and go along with it. So how do you navigate those controversial waters?
It's funny you should say that. I think, so I come from 3 different cultures. I'm a Kenyan, Filipino American. I've worked in 25 countries around the world, and I think all over the world. And yes, men tend to be the higher earners. I mean, there's a wage gap to account for there. They tend to be more financially literate, as evidenced by the tons of information out there, even demonstrated in the earlier Sizzler. But the world over, women actually make most financial decisions for the household. So we focus on, I personally, and I think the participants of the MAIA Awards, we focus on what women are doing or what people who are excluded are doing. And we work on empowering that journey so we can be making more decisions. So right now we're making decisions in our household for our family. Maybe we'll expand that to ourselves and our friends, and maybe for the household, the entirety of the household, and maybe for our neighborhood, and maybe for society writ large. Because that's what we're trying to do by empowering these financially excluded groups. They are making decisions. We just have to empower them to make more of them, to drive a greater impact.
And it really integrates the sexes as well in terms of that money making decision and in terms of distributing the money, the wealth in the family. Rosalia, you are going to announce the awards or the categories, but before we go to that, I know that Michael's chomping at the bit because you just want to give us an idea about the different categories, that there are loads of them. So take us through that, okay, and then we're going to return to Rosalia because she's going to bring us the winners in one of those categories. So take us through it, Michael. All to you.
Oh, actually, I think the next thing is for me to actually announce the 4 categories that I am going to announce the winners of.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. So the first category that I have the winners of, and we'll come back to Rosalia in a minute. Don't worry, everyone. It's not going to be me forever. The first category I have is the category for best non-profit working for underserved communities. And this was a very hotly contested category. And the winner was the Young Investors Society Access Initiative. Now, this is a project in the US that gives free education, mentorship, and scholarships to students in under-resourced communities in the United States. So our judges spoke very highly of this program, and particularly impressed by the way that the project worked on learning by doing, and also the involvement of Mark Cuban. But there were other very strong entries in this category. The runner-up was Enrich from Hong Kong, a program there that empowers migrant workers with interactive financial literacy education. When you know only that 6% of migrant workers achieve their financial goals, you can see the power behind this project. And we also had a special commendation in this category, which is from Australia, called Your Toolkit, which provides comprehensive information for women and families facing abuse, a really valuable and often overlooked area of financial information. So I've actually got some envelopes here, so I've got a couple more to go through. The next, I was going to take my time. I thought we'd do something a little bit analog. The next category I have is the best for profit working with school-aged education. And this category has one winner, and it is KFI Global. This program was launched and run by Marilyn Lydia Pinto, works to create smarter, richer, and braver teens. It also works using an interesting hybrid of private funding, CSR, and non-profit, getting corporate sponsorship to pay for these courses that then don't have to pay. So a very interesting project there from KFI Global. Before I announce the next category, I think it's important to note that not every category had a submission that the judges rated highly enough to be considered a winner for that category. We started with 15 categories, and we only hand out 9 winners' trophies, or metaphorically 9 winners' trophies, by the end of this evening. Some of these categories did, however, have interesting submissions to which we've given a special commendation. The next category is the best for-profit fintech. Sorry, opening the envelope. This is a very promising category where so much valuable work can be done and is being done, and had a very high number of entries, but nearly all of them scored lower with our judges than the winning entries in other categories. And as a result, we have no winner in this category, but we are awarding a special commendation to the entry from Black Bullion in the UK. It's now also available in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, and it assists university and college students with financial inclusion and well-being, helping them apply for funding at the same time as teaching them how to use it, which is a really interesting way of making sure that the lessons are learnt and the students get the benefit of both the funding and of the education. So one of our judges noting there's a really great idea to integrate education and disbursements at the same time. My last category before we go back to Rosalia is in the for-profit working in developing economies. And in this case, we have, again, a special commendation, and it is for Kinara Capital. This is a group bringing access to funding and financial education for Indian micro and small to medium-sized enterprises. What they estimate that they have the extension of their education and credit to smaller companies has helped to create or sustain up to 250,000 jobs in India. And our judges were particularly impressed by the one side of their program which they built, which targets the female population, which represents only 14% of entrepreneurs in India, and they're trying to boost that with that side of the program. So all of those really very well done. With very, very impressed by every single category there, and congratulations to all the winners, the runners-up, and the special commendations so far.
I'd like to